Imagine this. You are standing in the center of a vast dark room, silence pressing against your ears, when suddenly a single frequency begins to hum, a sound not heard but felt, vibrating through the marrow of your bones, synchronizing with the electric pulse of your own heart. This is not merely a poetic abstraction. It is the fundamental reality of the universe as understood by the man who arguably invented the 20th century. Nikola Tesla, a mind that operated on a plane of existence few could comprehend, once declared with absolute conviction, "My brain is only a receiver. In the universe, there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration. I have not penetrated into the secrets of this core, but I know that it exists." This statement is not just a philosophical musing, it is a technical blueprint for the architecture of human consciousness. To understand this, you must strip away the conventional biology taught in elementary textbooks that views the brain merely as a biological hard drive, storing memories and processing data through a closed loop of chemical reactions. Instead, you must begin to view the gray matter within your skull as a highly sophisticated organic antenna, tuned to the specific frequencies of the cosmos. If you look closely at the physics of reality, everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. This was the trinity of understanding that Tesla championed. When he looked at the human brain, he did not see a generator of thought, he saw a transducer. A radio does not create the music it plays, it captures a signal that is already present in the ether, amplifies it, and translates it into a form that can be perceived. If you smash the radio, you do not destroy the signal. The broadcast continues, permeating the space regardless of the receiver's condition. Tesla proposed that the human mind functions identically. The thoughts, the inspirations, the sudden flashes of genius that strike without warning, these are not fabrications of the isolated self, but are interceptions of a cosmic transmission. The core, he spoke of, acts as a universal transmitter, a singularity of infinite data broadcasting across the electromagnetic spectrum, waiting for a receiver with the correct capacitance and inductance to tune in. Consider the implications of this hypothesis on the nature of intelligence and invention. Most of us operate under the assumption that we generate ideas through a linear process of deduction. A leads to B, which leads to C. However, Tesla's own life contradicts this. He did not arrive at the rotating magnetic field or the alternating current motor through tedious step-by-step logic. He described seeing his inventions in complete holographic detail before he ever put pen to paper. He could run the machines in his mind, test for wear and tear, and make adjustments, all within the simulation of his mental receiver. This phenomenon suggests that the information for these technologies already existed in the universal field. Tesla simply adjusted his mental frequency to match the vibrational signature of that specific knowledge. It forces you to ask, are we creators, or are we merely vessels for a higher order of information attempting to manifest itself in the physical realm? To delve deeper into the mechanics of this cosmic receiver, we must analyze the brain's electromagnetic nature. Every neuron in your brain, all 86 billion of them, communicates via electrical impulses. When these neurons fire in synchronization, they generate an electromagnetic field that can be measured outside the skull using an electroencephalogram, EEG. These are your brainwaves, delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. Each of these states represents a different frequency bandwidth. Tesla, in his obsessive study of electricity, understood that resonance is the key to power transfer. If you want to transfer energy from one circuit to another without wires, the circuits must resonate at the same frequency. The same principle applies to the transfer of information from the universal core to the human mind. When you are in a state of high stress or intense focus on the material world, your brain operates in beta waves, fast, reactive, and localized. This is a state of low receptivity to the subtle signals of the cosmos. It is like trying to hear a whisper in a thunderstorm. However, as you descend into alpha and theta states, the states of relaxation, meditation, or the moments just before sleep, the brain's frequency slows down. It becomes coherent, The noise of the ego and the sensory world fades, and the impedance of the neural circuits drops. It is in this state of resonance that the receiver becomes clear. This is where the signal from the core can penetrate the static. Tesla was known to enter these states intentionally, utilizing his famous visualization exercises to quiet the interference and maximize the gain on his mental antenna. The universe is awash in fields. We are swimming in a sea of electromagnetic radiation, gravitational waves, and perhaps even subtler fields we have yet to detect. Quantum mechanics has shown us that particles can be entangled across vast distances, sharing information instantaneously, defying the speed of light. If two particles can communicate non-locally, is it so far-fetched to believe that the complex quantum structures within the brain, perhaps the microtubules within neurons, as suggested by Penrose and Hameroff, are capable of non-local communication with the structure of the universe itself? Tesla's hypothesis aligns frighteningly well with the concept of the Akashic records, or the zero-point field, a background field of energy that contains the memory of everything that has ever happened and the potential of everything that ever will happen. You have likely experienced this yourself, even if you dismissed it. Have you ever thought of someone moments before they called? Have you ever had a solution to a complex problem pop into your head while you were in the shower or taking a walk, completely detached from the problem itself? This is the receiver in action. When you stopped forcing the logic, when you stopped transmitting, you allowed yourself to receive. The brain, when uncluttered by the chaotic frequencies of modern life, naturally seeks resonance with the external environment. This is why nature, which vibrates at the Earth's natural frequency, feels so restorative. Your brain entrains to this frequency, the same frequency that Tesla speculated was vital for the connection to the universal energy supply. Tesla's obsession with the number 3, 6, and 9 also ties into this receiver hypothesis. He claimed, if you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, then you would have a key to the universe. Mathematics is the language of the universe, a language of pure frequency and ratio. If the brain is a receiver, then geometry and mathematics are the tuning dials. The structure of the universe is geometric, from the spiral of galaxies to the double helix of DNA. By understanding the mathematical patterns of reality, one can align their internal geometry with the external geometry of the cosmos. Tesla's mind was a kaleidoscope of these geometric patterns. He didn't just think, he vibrated in harmony with the laws of physics. His consciousness was a coherent laser beam of intent, cutting through the noise of random probability to access the deterministic truths hidden in the ether. But what blocks the signal? If the core is always broadcasting knowledge, strength, and inspiration, why is humanity not a race of enlightened geniuses? The answer lies in the interference. Modern society is a cacophony of discordant frequencies, both literal and figurative. We are bombarded by electromagnetic smog, artificial lighting, and the psychological static of fear, consumerism, and distraction. These external vibrations create destructive interference patterns within the brain's electromagnetic field. They scramble the signal. We have become radios stuck between stations, hearing only white noise and fragments of the truth. Tesla warned of this. He valued solitude above all else, stating, "The mind is sharper and keener in seclusion and uninterrupted solitude." No big laboratory is needed in which to think. Originality thrives in seclusion, free of outside influences beating upon us to cripple the creative mind. He understood that to be a clear receiver, one must isolate the antenna from the noise floor of the environment. Furthermore, the concept of the brain as a receiver challenges the very egocentric view of human existence. It suggests that you are not the source of your greatness. The you that you identify with is merely the interface. The greatness comes from the source. This is a humbling realization, but also an empowering one. It means that the potential for genius is not limited by your genetics or your education, but by your ability to tune in. It implies that the library of universal knowledge is open to anyone who learns how to access the card catalog. Tesla was not a mutant. He was simply a master operator of the human instrument. He understood the manual that the rest of us have thrown away. As we analyze the biological machinery required for this reception, we must look at the pineal gland. Often dubbed the third eye, this small pine cone-shaped gland in the center of the brain is piezoelectric, meaning it contains calcite microcrystals that can generate an electric charge under mechanical stress. It is sensitive to light and electromagnetic fields. Many esoteric traditions and modern researchers hypothesize that the pineal gland acts as the primary resonator for these higher cosmic frequencies. When Tesla spoke of the core, he may have been describing the signal that the pineal gland is designed to intercept. In a calcified or dormant state, the receiver is turned off. But when activated, perhaps through the vibrational mastery Tesla alluded to, it opens the floodgates to the non-local information field. To fully grasp the magnitude of Tesla's claim that the brain is a receiver, we must look beyond the biological hardware and examine the medium through which this cosmic transmission travels. A receiver is useless without a signal, and a signal requires a medium. In the standard model of physics taught today, space is often regarded as a vacuum, a void of nothingness. However, Tesla vehemently rejected this idea. He adhered to the concept of the luminiferous ether, an invisible, all-pervasive fluid that fills every corner of the universe, acting as the carrier for light and electromagnetic energy. While Einstein's relativity shifted the scientific consensus away from the ether, Tesla insisted it was necessary for the propagation of energy. If you accept Tesla's premise, then your brain is not floating in a vacuum. It is submerged in an ocean of potentiality. Every thought you think, every synaptic firing creates a ripple in this ether, just as a stone thrown into a pond creates ripples in the water. Conversely, the great waves generated by the core are constantly washing over you, pressing against the shores of your consciousness. This brings us to the specific nature of the waves Tesla believed were responsible for this communication. He was critical of the Hertzian waves, the transverse electromagnetic waves used in modern radio and Wi-Fi, arguing that they were inefficient and prone to energy loss over distance. Tesla championed longitudinal waves, or scalar waves. These are more akin to sound waves moving through the air than light waves moving through space. They compress and rarefy the medium, rather than oscillating perpendicular to the direction of travel. Scalar waves have unique properties. They can penetrate solid matter without losing strength, and theoretically, they can travel faster than the speed of light because they operate outside the standard constraints of time and space. If the core of the universe communicates with the human brain, it would likely utilize these scalar waves. This would explain why inspiration can strike instantaneously, defying the speed of light, and why telepathic phenomena, which Tesla also investigated, seem to occur without regard for physical distance. Your brain, in its deepest moments of resonance, may be acting as a scalar interferometer, detecting the subtle pressure changes in the fabric of reality itself. You must consider the possibility that the core Tesla referred to is not merely a metaphorical library, but a literal source of coherent energy, perhaps located at the galactic center or existing as a distributed network throughout the cosmos. Tesla often spoke of the sun as a primary source of life and energy, but he hinted at a darker, more profound source behind the sun. In his worldview, all matter comes from a primary substance, the akasha or luminiferous ether, which is acted upon by the life-giving prana or creative force, calling into existence in never-ending cycles all things and phenomena. The brain, therefore, is the interface between this primary substance and the physical world. When you have a new idea, you are not creating it from scratch. You are simply demodulating a signal that has been encoded in the ether since the dawn of time. The act of invention is actually an act of discovery. The music, the mathematics, the machines, they are already there, encoded in the standing waves of the universe, waiting for a mind with the correct inductance to vibrate in sympathy with them. This concept of vibrating in sympathy brings us to the phenomenon of the Schumann resonance. The Earth itself behaves like a gigantic electric circuit. The atmosphere is a weak conductor, and the ionosphere is highly conductive. Between these two layers exists a cavity that resonates with electromagnetic waves, primarily at a frequency of 7.83 Hz. This is known as the heartbeat of the Earth. It is no coincidence that the human brain's alpha and theta waves, the states associated with creativity, healing, and deep relaxation, hover exactly around this frequency range. Tesla was acutely aware of the Earth's electrical capacity. His Wardenclyffe Tower was designed to grip the Earth and shake it electrically to transmit power. But in a biological sense, your brain is evolved to sync with this planetary pulse. When you are disconnected from nature, surrounded by the high-frequency chaos of modern technology, you lose this phase lock with the Earth. You become desynchronized. The static increases. But when you align your internal frequency with the 7.83 Hz of the planet, you effectively ground your receiver. You open the channel. Tesla implies that the Earth acts as a massive signal booster for the cosmic core. By tuning into the Earth, you tune into the universe. Think about the implications of energy in this context. We often think of energy as fuel, calories to burn or electricity to run a motor, but energy is also information. In fiber optics, light carries data. In radio, waves carry voice. The energy Tesla speaks of is intelligent energy. It carries the structural blueprints of the cosmos. When he stated he had not penetrated into the secrets of this core, he was admitting that the bandwidth of the human receiver is limited. We can only download a fraction of the data available. However, he believed that through rigorous mental discipline, one could upgrade the receiver. This is where his ascetic lifestyle comes into focus. Tesla practiced celibacy, controlled his diet meticulously, and worked in distinct rhythms. He was trying to reduce the biological noise. Every physical urge, every digestion of heavy food consumes energy that could otherwise be used to power the cerebral circuits. To receive the subtle broadcast of the core, one must minimize the thermal noise of the body. You cannot hear the symphony of the stars if your own biological engine is roaring too loudly. Furthermore, let us analyze the mechanism of attention through the lens of physics. In quantum mechanics, the observer effect dictates that the act of observation changes the behavior of particles. When you focus your attention, you are not just passively watching. You are directing a beam of conscious energy. Tesla's method involved intense, unwavering visualization. He would hold an image in his mind for hours, effectively creating a standing wave of mental energy. By sustaining this focus, he created a strong, attractive force, a magnetic pull in the ether. This is the law of attraction, stripped of its mystical veneer and explained through field dynamics. By vibrating consistently at the frequency of a specific solution or idea, you entice that frequency from the universal field to manifest in your neural pathways. You become a magnet for the specific knowledge you seek. Most people's minds are like flickering flashlights, jumping from one thought to another, never sustaining enough coherence to establish a connection. Tesla's mind was a laser. This hypothesis also reframes our understanding of memory. If the brain is a receiver, then memory might not be entirely stored inside the skull. Neuroscientists have searched for the engram, the physical trace of memory in the brain, for decades with limited success. Carl Lashley's experiments in the 1920s showed that even after removing large portions of a rat's brain, the rat could still remember how to navigate a maze. This suggests that memory is distributed, or perhaps non-local. Tesla's view supports the holographic theory of the brain, the idea that memories are stored in the field, in the ether, and the brain accesses them like a computer accessing a cloud server. When you forget, it is not that the file is deleted. It is that you have lost the link, the specific retrieval code, or the connection is momentarily down. This explains phenomena like terminal lucidity, where patients with severe brain damage or dementia suddenly regain full clarity moments before death. As the brain begins to shut down, the resistance drops, the bypass filters fail, and the consciousness reconnects fully with the signal one last time. Consider the core as a singularity of infinite intelligence. In physics, a singularity is a point where the laws of space-time break down. If such a core exists, it stands outside of time. This means that past, present, and future are accessible simultaneously. Tesla claimed to see the past, present, and future as one. When he visualized his motors, he said he could run them in his mind and check for wear and tear that would happen in the future. He was accessing the future timeline of the machine in the eternal now of the core. This suggests that the universe is deterministic, or at least that all probabilities exist simultaneously in the quantum field. Your brain, as a receiver, navigates this landscape of probabilities. Premeditation, intuition, and prophecy are simply instances where the receiver tunes into a frequency that corresponds to a future point on the linear timeline. But there is a danger in this reception. A receiver that is not grounded can be overloaded. Tesla himself suffered from extreme sensitivity. He could hear a fly land on a table in another room. The sound of a carriage passing miles away felt like an earthquake. His receiver was tuned so high that the physical world became painful. This serves as a warning. To access the cosmic energies, one must have a vessel strong enough to withstand the voltage. The nervous system must be fortified. If you pump 10,000 volts through a wire rated for 110, the wire melts. Many manifestations of mental instability or madness in creative geniuses might be the result of a biological receiver being flooded by a signal intensity it cannot process. The boundary between genius and insanity is the structural integrity of the antenna. We must also ask, is the core trying to communicate with us? Is there an intent behind the signal? Tesla often spoke of the universe with a sense of reverence, implying a grand design. If the core is the source of knowledge, strength, and inspiration, then the universe is actively trying to evolve its constituent parts. It is broadcasting the codes for evolution. Every great leap in human history, the discovery of fire, the wheel, electricity, the internet, occurred when a human mind finally tuned into the broadcast that had been playing since the beginning of time. We are not inventing the future, we are downloading it. The pace of technological advancement is accelerating, not because we are getting smarter, but because our collective connectivity, our global network of brains, is becoming a more efficient receiver array. We are building a planetary brain that can download larger and larger packets of data from the core. Consider the phenomenon of multiple discovery, a statistical anomaly that haunts the history of science. Calculus was discovered independently by Isaac Newton and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz at roughly the same time. The theory of evolution was formulated by Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace simultaneously. The telephone, the steam engine, the jet engine. History is littered with instances where two or more disconnected individuals, separated by vast oceans and without any means of communication, arrived at the exact same breakthrough at the exact same moment. Standard history calls this coincidence. Tesla's hypothesis calls it inevitable. If the brain is a receiver and the core broadcasts the frequency of a specific discovery, say the calculus frequency, then anyone whose mental antenna is tuned to that specific bandwidth will download the information. It is not that Newton and Leibniz were uniquely creative in an isolated vacuum. It is that they were the only two radios in the world built with the vacuum tubes necessary to demodulate that specific signal from the ether. The signal was the variable, the brains were merely the instruments. This perspective radically shifts the definition of a genius. A genius is not a generator of new information, but a high-fidelity demodulator of the cosmic background field. This aligns with the ancient Vedic philosophies that Tesla studied and admired. After meeting with Swami Vivekananda, Tesla began using Sanskrit terms like akasha, the ether, and prana, the cosmic energy. He understood that the universe is not composed of dead matter, but is a dynamic, living substance. The akasha is the medium, the unmanifested fluid that fills all space, and prana is the energy that acts upon it to create the physical world. Your brain is the biological machinery that processes prana. When you feel drained, it is not just a lack of chemical calories, it is a desynchronization from the prana field. Tesla believed that if humanity could hook their machinery and their minds directly to the wheelwork of nature, we would have unlimited power. The brain is the prototype for this connection. It is the only machine we have that currently taps into the non-physical realm and draws back coherent data. You must also analyze the role of the ether in this equation, a concept Tesla defended until his dying breath, even as the scientific establishment turned toward Einstein's relativity. Einstein dismissed the ether as unnecessary for his equations, but Tesla argued that waves cannot exist without a medium. You cannot have ocean waves without water. You cannot have sound waves without air. Therefore, you cannot have electromagnetic or thought waves without the ether. If Tesla was right, the ether is the universal hard drive. It is the substance that connects the core to your pineal gland. It is a superfluid of infinite tension and density, yet we move through it as if it were nothing. When you think, you are creating stress in the ether. When you receive, you are detecting stress in the ether. This fluid medium connects every mind in the universe. It means that privacy is an illusion of the ego. In the etheric medium, every thought is a broadcast and every mind is potentially a receiver of every other mind's output. This creates a collective consciousness, a shared mental atmosphere that we all breathe. If this is true, then the quality of your thoughts is not just a personal matter. It is a contribution to the global frequency. When you operate in fear, anger, or confusion, you are broadcasting a dissonant signal that adds noise to the planetary receiver. When you operate in clarity, love, and focus, you amplify the signal of the core for everyone else. Tesla's life was a testament to this responsibility. He did not hoard his inventions. He tore up royalties that would have made him a billionaire to ensure his alternating current could power the world. He was operating on a frequency of abundance, a frequency that emanated directly from the core. He understood that the knowledge didn't belong to him. He was just the conduit. To claim ownership of an idea, in Tesla's view, would be like a radio claiming it wrote the symphony it just played. However, there is a mechanical limitation to this biological receiver: the noise floor of the ego. The self is the greatest source of static interference. The constant narration of "I am," "I want," "I fear" creates a local electromagnetic disturbance that shields the brain from the subtler, high-frequency transmissions of the cosmos. This is why the greatest insights often come when the ego is distracted or dormant, in the shower, during a long drive, or in dreams. In those moments, the I goes offline and the receiver opens. Tesla's method of visualization was a way of bypassing the ego. He didn't try to figure things out. He watched them unfold. He became a passive observer of an active internal simulation. To emulate this, you must learn to silence the internal chatter. You must lower the impedance of your neural pathways so that the current of the universe can flow through you without resistance. Let us look at the physics of resonance one last time. Resonance is the ability of a system to absorb energy at a specific frequency. A bridge can be destroyed by the march of soldiers if their rhythm matches the bridge's natural resonant frequency. A singer can shatter a glass if they hit the pitch that matches the glass's molecular vibration. This is destructive resonance. But there is also constructive resonance. When you align your mental frequency with the frequency of a solution, the energy of that solution floods into your mind. This is the mechanism of the epiphany. It is a sudden surge of energy that occurs when the dial of your mind clicks into place with the broadcast of the core. The feeling of euphoria, the aha moment, is the physical sensation of constructive interference between your brainwaves and the cosmic signal. You are literally resonating with the truth. But what of the core itself? Tesla admitted, "I have not penetrated into the secrets of this core." This suggests an ultimate mystery, a limit to human understanding. It implies that there is an intelligence behind the physics, a source code that dictates the constants of the universe. If the brain is a receiver, then death may not be the end of consciousness, but merely the destruction of the radio. The signal, the consciousness itself, remains in the ether, perhaps returning to the core. This aligns with the first law of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. If your consciousness is energy, it is eternal. The brain is just the temporary housing that localizes that energy in space-time. When the housing degrades, the signal is released back into the broadband field. In this light, We are all walking, talking antennas, biological terminals connected to a cosmic mainframe. The disparity in human intelligence and capability is not a difference in potential, but a difference in reception. Some have corroded antennas, some are tuned to the wrong station, some are simply not plugged in, but the signal is always there. It is raining down on us every second of every day. The knowledge of the stars, the secrets of energy, the blueprints of the future. The universe is shouting its secrets to us, but we are often too deafened by our own noise to hear. Tesla heard. He tuned his instrument to the pitch of the universe and changed the trajectory of humanity. The challenge he left behind is for us to do the same. To refine our instrument, to purify the vessel, to stop generating noise and start receiving the signal. Did you know that the very electrical impulses that allow you to read these words are the same force that binds the galaxies together? As you sit there, your brain is firing in patterns that mimic the lightning storms in the upper atmosphere. You are a microcosm of the macrocosm. The separation between you and the universe is a persistent optical delusion of consciousness. You are not in the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself through a specific frequency bandwidth. The core is not out there. It is the signal that animates you. You are the receiver, but you are also the transmission. The question is not whether the signal exists. The question is whether you are brave enough to tune into a frequency that will shatter your limited perception of reality. We stand on the precipice of a new age where the mastery of these inner forces will eclipse our mastery of the outer world. If we can build machines that tap into the wheelwork of nature, can we not also build minds that tap into the wheelwork of the spirit? The technology of the future will not be made of metal and silicon, but of consciousness and vibration. We will move from the age of information to the age of intuition. But until we acknowledge that we are receivers, we will continue to spin our wheels, generating nothing but heat and noise, isolated from the infinite source of power that hums in the silence between our thoughts. If the brain is indeed a cosmic receiver, capable of demodulating the fundamental truths of existence from the vacuum of space, why does the vast majority of the human species remain locked in a feedback loop of terrestrial static, unable to access the signal that would liberate them? The propagation of the carrier wave is omnipresent, but without the precise impedance matching of the internal oscillator to the external field, the transmission remains indistinguishable from thermal noise.